Hey guys, I guess we'll get the panel started now. Maybe we'll do a quick round of intros first, just in general. So I'll be moderating the panel. My name is Nihal. I'm a junior partner at Pantera Capital. I focus on most of the DeFi and infrastructure investments for Pantera. Just to give a quick synopsis of Pantera for those who don't know, it's a $1.25 billion venture fund that solely focuses on blockchain companies. We do everything from consumer to infrastructure. And obviously we also, look deeply into Bitcoin L2s, which is probably going to be the topic, most of the topic for this panel. Maybe we just go down the line here specifically. We'd love to get an intro of you, the protocol, and what you guys are kind of building briefly.
That's easy because we'll do
Yeah, my name is Rostislav, and I am co-founder and CEO of Strum Network. And I'm in Bitcoin ecosystem from 2017. Worked at Bitfury Group with different Bitcoin technologies. Then I joined Lido Finance, the first product manager. It's like the biggest liquid staking protocol. And worked there till the first billions in TVL, and then like I co-founded Strum, and it's like a combination of my experience in Bitcoin ecosystem and at liquid staking. So yeah, we are doing liquid staking for Bitcoin, and we have a bridge to other chain, and also like generating native BTC yield for stakers.
Hi, GM. Okay, so Jordan here, head of BD and partnership at Multichain. So what I do basically is to scout for quality projects to build on Multichain. So I provide resources such as BD, growth, and marketing. And currently I'm heading the incubation for Runes with One Piece Lab at San Fran, as well as OKX Ventures and Franklin Templeton. Right. So Multichain is a Bitcoin layer 2 that is EVM compatible, and we are committed to empower Bitcoin native assets on layer 1. So Ordinals, Runes, Bitmaps, ARC20 through layer 2 in Multichain, and then we want to make Bitcoin fun again. So by making Bitcoin fun again, we are essentially saying to enhance the Bitcoin functionality to increase the wider adoption within the Bitcoin ecosystem. So before Multichain, the team actually created Bitcoin native assets. It's called Bitmap, BRC420. So last year, May, we actually have, I would say, a lot of tractions and user growth within that space. But in terms of scalability, was not there. Like in terms of the Bitcoin, block size is like 4 megabyte, block time of 10 minutes. So eventually L2 is the way to go. And then we explore a few solutions, and then we built Multichain earlier this year, testnet in January. Within 2 weeks, we actually launched our mainnet. Then we started TVL campaign to gather basically economic sentiment, the market conditions and stuff like that. We actually amassed $2 billion in terms of TVL within 2 weeks. 50 days later, we have $3.5 billion in terms of TVL. After that, we launched our TG in 19 April during Bitcoin halvening. And then users can choose to unstake. And yet, with the unstake mechanism, we still have $1.2 billion in terms of TVL right now on Multichain. So we are very humbled and privileged to constantly forward the Bitcoin ecosystem. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Awesome. Is this thing on? You guys can hear me? Cool. Really excited. Apparently Bitcoin panels are like the most exciting and demand thing at Multichain Days. So pumped to be a part of it. So my name is Brendan. I'm one of the initial contributors at Core, currently focused on a lot of our institutional strategy partnerships, and then running Core Ventures, where we invest in Bitcoin-enabled projects on Core. So if you're building, come talk to me. Getting to Core, we're a leading Bitcoin scaling chain. It's EVM compatible, layer 1, secured by Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin miners who delegate hash. Over 55% of mining hash is being delegated to the network today to secure Core. And then secondly, Bitcoin holders who can stake Bitcoin without having to wrap bridge or give up custody of Bitcoin. They do it directly on the L1. We have about 6,000 Bitcoin staked today, helping secure the network. We launched about 18 months ago or so, with the mission of expanding Bitcoin's utility, really aligning with the existing Bitcoin stakeholders, miners, and Bitcoin holders. So yeah, excited for this panel. Got a couple friends on here. Should be a lot of fun.
Hey guys, I'm Harshan. Been in crypto for a couple of years. Work at Thesis. It's a Bitcoin venture studio. We've been building on Bitcoin for 10 years. We have a handful of portfolio companies that you may have heard of: Fold, TBTC or Threshold Network, which is a DAO now, Mezzo and Acre. And today, representing Mezzo, one of the founding contributors. We're a EVM sidechain for Bitcoin, building out the economic layer, proof of stake with the Tendermint SDK. The idea is how do we bring Bitcoin Fi into kind of the forefront, and seeing a lot of demand over this year, and expect to see it a lot next, and so excited to build and be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the intros, guys. Now, maybe my first question is that, the OG Bitcoin holders are not known for, like liking so much innovation. I'm curious, as you guys are scaling Bitcoin or trying to find native yield, doing different things like staking, what is the type of user profile that you're kind of building towards? What have you kind of discovered while building your products, and kind of how are you tailoring? Because it's a very unique challenge that's different than the other L2s, specifically maybe Ethereum EVM L2s or SVM, protocols. I'm curious, what have you kind of discovered of the user profile that you're trying to attract, and what do you think do you think this is going to hit mainstream and that all users are going to be coming to Bitcoin L2s, and like why do you think that specifically? So maybe we can kind of go down the line over here, or if anyone wants to volunteer, happy to go that way as well.
I can jump in if you want. I think for us, it's about making Bitcoin super normal. Bitcoin right now is, okay, it's an asset. We want to keep it like gold. It's a pet rock, whatever you want to call it. And those users may or may not change their mind. But I think there's a survey that was done in 2019, 2020, where 71% of Bitcoin holders owned other assets and have done stuff on chain in some capacity. And so I think that if we want this to become like DeFi, as we've kind of envisioned and talked about for the last like 8-9 years at this point, you have to put this stuff to work. But what you need to do is abstract a lot of things away and make the user interface simple. And you have to find real yield opportunities. Like, we haven't really had yield. Either you're the yield, or there's points and there's retail's the yield, because they're the ones buying token when they TGE. And so how do we focus on long tail assets where, Bitcoin should be used to buy a house, everyday life, like it's like a retirement account. And so within Mezzo, what we're thinking about is, how can you use your Bitcoin, borrow against it, have stables issued against your Bitcoin, off-ramp it through Fold or someone else, such that you're now using your assets both in the on-chain world and the real world. And basically, instead of having an extremely capitally inefficient market, right? Bitcoin, don't know what the price is, but say $1 trillion asset that is largely untapped, whereas if you look at any other fixed asset across the globe, or any any of these income products that compared to Bitcoin, a lot more are used. So I think it's about building rails and connecting to people and educating people, because I don't think the users are there today. The only users that we really have in this space are either on redacted airlines, if you saw the tweets going around, like people like meme coins and karaoke, or you have people doing some stuff on chain, but none of it's really that scalable. And so I think it's about building off-chain, on-chain products, and educating people to get them comfortable.
You know about this plane?
I may or may not have been on this plane.
We're having a chat. Yeah, so generally agree with a lot of what's already been said. I think it's a bit of a misconception that Bitcoiners don't want to do things with their asset. Everyone wants to have a productive asset that's earning yield. And I think with some of the recent upgrades and things we saw with ordinals, et cetera, it's just kind of rekindled some of that interest, which may have been, lost over time. So really excited to support that by turning it into a yield-bearing asset, firstly. Things like staking, where you don't have to give up custody. I think a lot of people also got burned through some of these traditional, it's, like a lot of folks wanted to earn yield. It just typically required giving up custody or some sort of weird lend-borrow situation, which all went bankrupt, burned a lot of Bitcoiners. So I think we're kind of just coming back from that, and there's a lot of on-chain opportunities arising with folks like Core and other chains, and there's a lot of excitement in this ecosystem. So excited to support that.
Yeah, I think I concur with Hashem and Brandon, right? So I think the ecosystem and the narrative has been evolving. So at the start in 2015, Ethereum wanted to be Bitcoin layer 2. right? There was a lot of debate between Ethereum and Bitcoin, but of course, each found their own way, right? With Vitalik leading the Ethereum side. So if you look at the demographic, Bitcoin holders generally are richer than Ethereum folks, right? But they are more risk adverse. Okay, and it's recognizable and it's well known that Bitcoin ecosystem, or I mean Bitcoin script, Bitcoin layer one on the ledger is the most decentralized and most secure platform or system, right? So if you ask any normies out there, they'll relate crypto to Bitcoin. Not everyone know about Ethereum. Of course, when we are in the space, we heard of all the different chains and the technology. Yeah, but if you want to get a wide adoption and you want to get people to come in, definitely it's through Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin holders, we start to see people from different demographics coming in. So at the start, those people who really play ordinals, I would say is the Asia communities, but the builders and creators, they are from the Western side. So there's a lot of innovation from the West side. And then, but you start to see like stakers from Japan, people from Korea, really come into the space. They stay on soft protocol. They stay on different LLT protocol as well. So generally, I would say Bitcoin holders, they are more risk averse. As long as we have a scaling solution plus a very secure network, we ensure that asset integrity is there. Be it MPC multisig, nothing is being lost through this kind of stuff, right? Or hackers and stuff like that. Generally, there's a lot of trust in this kind of adoption itself. And then if you are talking about playability, right, just beside staking, ordinals, bitmaps, and rune space actually has evolved exponentially since last year March. So people can right now inscribe ordinals on the individual Satoshi that can last through time, right? So compared to the NFT Ethereum side where it's off-chain, it can be subjected to smart contract hacks. Ordinals, runes, as well as bitmaps, they are forever on the UTXO. So it's traceable. And then because of that, there's a span of ecosystem for the Bitcoin holders. Right now, they are exploring that part in the narrative. And then that actually gave a lot of, I would say, integration, Legos within the space as well. Yeah.
Yeah, agree with previous speakers. And want also to add that currently we see the demand from the Bitcoiners also not just to hold them, but also generate some native BTC yield and have some additional earnings independent from market cycles, not just like a hold and sell. And also a big demand to capture some additional yield from DeFi ecosystem, because Bitcoin is still the best asset and entry point for a lot of people to the crypto. And and this a new audience, they are not a super maxis who just want to keep their Bitcoins for the end of their life and not touch them. And currently also we see a lot of use cases already proven on other DeFi ecosystems. So I think now is pretty good timing just to implement the best practices also to Bitcoin and provide a new use cases and utility, because I think that Bitcoin has a lot more potential, not just as a digital gold. It can be also a staking asset, and it can be used for payments as well. Yeah. So when in Strum we are doing a liquid staking, so we are using Bitcoin in a Lightning network, because in this technology it's possible to use Bitcoin liquidity to generate yield in Bitcoins. So this is important for us. And and also we have a liquid token on the Ethereum side, which we plan to integrate it to DeFi protocols also to keep this stake liquid as well.
Awesome. Okay, so jumping from that, I'm curious here about interoperability. I know you mentioned that you want to make Bitcoin super normal, have people be able to kind of do house deposits. Then liquid staking, you guys are trying to find yield sources like DeFi. How important is interoperability when it comes to kind of scaling Bitcoin? What are the challenges that you guys have faced when kind of scaling Bitcoin through the different implementations that you guys have? And then how important is interoperability? Or do you think there'll be some consolidations eventually when, there's so many L2s right now. Maybe it will be siloed out. I'm just curious, just in general, how do you kind of see the importance of interoperability and the challenges that you face specifically of getting Bitcoin to like the larger crypto ecosystem?
I think that interoperability is super important because like Bitcoin as an asset will be presented on all chains and all execution layers. Even like currently we see Bitcoin on a lot of centralized solution as an asset as well. Yeah, so I think this is super important. And the main challenges, I think, is like two main challenges. The first one is technical challenge because Bitcoin has pretty limited like a technical functions to build some very complicated products, and like each protocol try to decide it how to make it decentralized, like without trust to the protocol and like with true value of Bitcoins. And I think the second risk is related to like other chains risk. So like it's additional risks not dependent on Bitcoin blockchain, but also very important for Bitcoin holders, because when they like estimate some opportunity and risks, like a lot of them is not on Bitcoin side. So yeah, I think like the key is just like to provide a good solution, decentralized. Like also maybe you've heard about a lot of new projects of liquid Bitcoins on other chains. So even now, with these debates about WBTC, we still see new centralized bridges to other chains and so on. Yeah, so like it's the world of Bitcoin is very, very different. Yeah, but I think the key is in decentralized solutions and with Bitcoin values and yeah, with interoperability with other chains.
I think there's we are very early, to be honest, right? If you look at Ethereum EVM, you can actually borrow against an asset in Avalanche, and then you can just bridge over to Arbitrum to do an arbitrage, right? So I think at the end of the day, it goes down to 3 points. So first is ecosystem, the apps. Second is liquidity. Third is bridge, right? So ecosystem, I will give an example, like for example, Avalanche, which is a money market on Multichain. It first built on Multichain and then amassed 200 million in terms of TVL. Right now, they has expanded to BitLayer, spoken to Cordell and a few other folks. So that kind of expansion for ecosystem is very important, where you can actually have that kind of you borrow against, then you leverage, and then you can do other kind of DeFi activities, right? Second will be liquidity. So as of now, I feel that there's a lot of Bitcoin variants right now. There's YBTC from P-Stake, there's UniBTC, there's Merlin BTC, there's TBTC and stuff like that. So spoken to Persistent, right? So they are trying to have this solution to allow the swap against each of the BTC variants, and then from there there's a yield provided from market making. So I think there's a lot of work to be done to prevent liquidity fragmentation within the system in order to make sure that it's more interoperable, and then for more advances in the technology. Then the third will be bridges. So we need to make sure the bridge is secured, is safe, can cause a lot of move in terms of volume is large as well. So to give an example, Merlin, as of now, after 6-7 months, we have like around $16 billion in terms of bridge in and out volume. So that kind of integrity has to be constantly monitored and make sure that it's always safe, it's well audited. And then we are working with Bitcoin OS as well to ensure that bridges can be trustless, and then there will be a single point of failure, right? So that kind of technology is coming in, but I would say overall it's still very early. So if let's say Ethereum folks, ZK side, come over to Bitcoin to build, I think we will be moving very, very quickly, and I start to see that this kind of trend in terms of developers coming into the space since I think KBW as well as this conference as well. So I think, yeah, it's pretty cool, but more work to be done here.
Yeah, so I don't know if this answers the question, but kind of building on the other panelists' points here, I think we are still pretty early. I don't know if like interoperability, we all obviously think of bridging, but it's like tiny percentage of overall Bitcoin supply has been bridged or put into an ecosystem. Wrap Bitcoin as the lead right now, but it's it's through a custodian, and frankly, it's tough for people to get access to it. Secondly, you got folks like Threshold with a decentralized option, which is great. But generally, there hasn't been like yield opportunities or something to bring that capital over necessarily, or make it worth your while to do so. But there are like borrowing opportunities on Maker, where I think is made up the majority of the supply is people who just want to borrow against Bitcoin, right? Because you don't want to sell it. So basically, I think it's been impressive so far with not a ton of use cases or yield to actually bring capital over. You're seeing this kind of next phase of chains, dApps, DeFi, native yield, LSTs, things that I think will bring even more Bitcoin into the ecosystem. So really excited about that, where folks will still have to take some sort of trust assumption, because these are all like multi-sig bridges. They're not completely trustless, but they're pretty well created. But the yield will probably counteract that, so you'll get more capital over, and you have like dedicated chains, like you got 3 here. And then lastly, we're kind of all observing these bigger, broader changes, right? Which is like a trustless bridge and a trustless L2 or scaling chain. And obviously we're probably all in the same boat, where we're observing, we're going to see what's going to be the best solution. And then we'll really see a next wave of capital flow in when folks are really willing to take that risk on, because there'll be a lot less trust assumptions in that kind of type of model. So we'll see where that all pans out, but that's kind of how I see it phasing out. And obviously, I guess to the root of the question, it's obviously super important to be tightly connected with the Bitcoin network, because that's where all the liquidity is trapped today. And frankly, it's only like a tiny, tiny percentage that's actually come over thus far. So I think it's really exciting. And that's why you see so many folks trying to capitalize on this opportunity. We're almost like front running the trustless bridge in a way, right? Where you want to build a community, build a chain that's aligned with actual Bitcoin participants, to the point when that tech's ready and all this capital flows, and it creates a pretty massive and liquid ecosystem. So just a couple musings there and thoughts.
Yeah, I think the panel covered it pretty well. I think the only things that I would add, to Brendan's point, less than 1% of Bitcoin is really used on chain. So I don't think there's that much fragmentation, because there's no money to really play with at all. I think interoperability matters just from like a tech standpoint right now, just to get developers to come on board. Like the ecosystem's generally not that large. And so you want to make stuff that's easy for other people to port over that have already built on different chains. So I think interoperability from that perspective matters. I think we'll see consolidation at some point, because there's like 100 Bitcoin L2s. I doubt 100 L2s actually make it. Maybe they do, who knows? I also think that long tail, the chains shouldn't matter. Because no one knows the fiber optic cable that they're using to visit a website. So I think at the same point, chains should get abstracted out. It's going to be really focused on use cases. And so I think interoperability today is more about developers and just getting people to how do they get access to your chain? And so either bridges, making it EVM compatible, or working with other things, just so you have a flow of users and where the capital and developer mindshare is. But I think beyond that, it's just about, I think the real interoperability is like, how do you go backwards compatibility to TradFi? How do you connect into those networks and get fiat on board? I think that's the biggest thing that no one's really working on. Like we had a bunch of companies in 2020, 2021 that have all blown up. And so I wonder who covers that gap and really gets like a lot of that capital on board.
All right, you guys have kind of touched upon this on many of these answers, but maybe I would love you guys to get this, like your perspective here. But like, what excites you, given we have 3 chains and a liquid staking protocol that's like hunting for yield? What are the projects that excite you the most, kind of building either on your chain specifically, or what do you kind of see as like the real yield opportunities that you're seeing, or maybe even long term you kind of want to be built on the chain that you guys are building right now? I'm just curious, like, where are those types of opportunities? Maybe our panelists can build that later on or something like that. So love to hear kind of what you see right now and what you're most excited about, and maybe the long term vision of what you think will be on your guys' chains in the future.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I like Athena, like carry trade plays. I think that options, perps on like Bitcoin on chain, like what Durbit does, but how do you bring some of that stuff on chain? How do you connect with market makers? I think if you want to have sizable yield today, like if you had $100 million, maybe you can do some yearn-like strategies on chain and do arb trades. But beyond that, say you have $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion, we don't have the sustainability to actually generate yield that's going to be worthwhile to take a risk, right? Anytime someone that has significant capital, say they have 1,000 Bitcoin, they would rather just keep it in a vault than earn 1% or 0.5% on it. Like for them, the risk reward is not there, at least today. And so I think anyone that's building that, there's like a few projects, but nothing that it's really kind of scratched the surface in a meaningful way. But that's kind of where my thought process is. Like, look at gold, look at the derivative markets on gold and all the financial products that have been built around it. How do we get that to Bitcoin?
Speaking about, sorry, yield opportunities, I think like we see the biggest potential in some like real world use cases, or some like value creations, or some like services, and for people who are ready to pay for them in Bitcoins. And with this revenue generate some yield for Bitcoin stakers. So yeah, I think this yield like the most natural, and it is independent on market cycles and so on. Yeah, and yeah, so like it will be cool if we have like a more real world use cases for, and like have some proposition for Bitcoin holders. It can be like a transfers of Bitcoins, or it can be some other financial services. Yeah, but it will be cool if this yield will be like in Bitcoins, not just like a restaking for tokens of other protocols or tokens of other chains. Yeah, so I think like this is, it has the most potential. Yeah, but like for example, in our solution, we also allow users to keep their Bitcoins in liquid form. So they also can like utilize it on DeFi side. On MVP version, it will be Ethereum, but later maybe we will add support of other Bitcoin L2s. So like to keep these Bitcoins in Bitcoin ecosystem. Yeah, so like generally it's a lot of opportunities for Bitcoin holders in the future, I think.
So one of the last. So yeah, I think some great use cases, definitely aligned with a lot of the DeFi use cases that Harsh just mentioned. And yeah, I think money markets are also super interesting. I think the thing we're really keen on is this native yield on Bitcoin. So obviously you can stake Bitcoin with Core on the L1 non-custodially, and it kind of turns it into a yield bearing asset. And I think that unlocks some pretty cool opportunities. So for example, you're a miner, you have a lot of Bitcoin, you don't necessarily want to sell it. You can borrow against it, but it's typically like pretty shitty loan to value ratios and expensive. So if there's native yield built into the token, it kind of helps some of these models actually work. So I think that's exciting. But yeah, I think generally people don't want to sell Bitcoin. They want to mint a stable coin or borrow against it. It's probably the most obvious use case. And they want to, buy a house, or they want to actually spend money and then pay it back over time and see the appreciation. So yeah, super excited about use cases like that are enabled by native yield. And we're pretty keen to see a lot of folks kind of build on top of that, whether it's stablecoin, money market, things like that.
I think all the panelists put a very strong point in terms of all this technology. I mean, it's very heartening to see all these different niches build up, right? Be it stablecoin, be it perps options for other yield bearing revenue or source, right? Beside what we know about Babylon, set layer, and the rest, right? And even Symbiotic is coming into the space. Then you have Lombard, Con, and then Pendle is coming in. So all these kind of Legos is there, as what the other panelists have mentioned. What I observe as well will be RWA. So like Zod, they are doing RWA with Bitcoin. So for example, you can use Bitcoin as collateral, and vice versa for T-bill and stuff like that. And then there's also a protocol called Giant. I would say Giant Planet. So what they do is you basically you can stake on it, and then you get the RWA receipt. At the same time, they can also give you yield in Bitcoin. So there's a few solutions coming up already. And then I would say there's also like exploration to go into, let's say, Pump.fund kind of Telegram site, where you can start to leverage on Ton, on Blinks and stuff like that to really get people to, I would say, cross-chain liquidity, getting users to come in, having better UI interfaces and playability. So all this product is actually coming up because I think I see and spoke to some of them. So they are building in the space, trying to get the best practices, not really reinvent the wheel, but trying to bring all these resources product offering together and then to present it to the market. I think that's very exciting to know.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the answers, guys. Looks like we just ran out of time. So yeah, thanks so much for the panelists. And yeah, this has been awesome.
G.